It's more than the sauce, right? It's
Right.
it's about making sure your people are growing, making sure they're developing and working together and really caring about one another and investing in one another.
You're listening to Staring at the World with BoDeans, Kurt Newman, a T. Torrance Productions original podcast.
Hey everybody, I'm Kurt Newman, and today we are staring at the world with one of the most important subjects out there. Today, of course, you know what I'm talking about, pizza, and specifically Lou Malnati's pizza. Stay tuned, we're going to have a great interview with Marc Malnati. Today we are staring at the world of a subject, well, it's very serious to me. It's very near and dear to my heart. I just don't mess around with this subject, and anyone who knows me knows that I'm probably talking about one thing only, which is pizza. It's something I've been involved in for a long time in my life, and to this day, I still am, and I love pizza, and we are fortunate to have a guest here who also has a long, long history in pizza, making pizza. His family's been making pizza for a very long time. Of course, I'm talking about Lou Malnati's Pizza in Chicago, Illinois. Our guest today, we're staring at the world with Marc Malnati, son of Lou Malnati's Pizza. And thank you for being here today, Marc. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Kurt. Thank you. And you, as a reminder, we're also in the Milwaukee area now.
Yes.
So people from Wisconsin don't have to come all the way to Chicago.
I've found you in a few different locations. I was out in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I walked right up to Lou Malnati's Pizza right out there as well. So you guys have expanded to get that wonderful pizza you make all around. People know it's important to me with pizza because pizza's been on our show rider for probably 35 years. And so everywhere I've traveled and played for all that time, I get to sample whatever local pizza shows up after our shows. And so I've become a connoisseur, and I know where good pizza is around this country. Lou Malnati's is a staple for when we're in Chicago, having good pizza. But there's all kinds of pizza. But I want to talk to you about the history of Lou Malnati's Pizza a little bit and what your life was like when you were a kid growing up with a pizza restaurant going on. And what was life like? Like, did you get to eat pizza every day of your life, or did you have to work in the restaurants? What was life like for you as a child?
Yeah. Well, actually, until I was 15, I probably only had pizza once or twice a year. My dad worked downtown with my grandfather at the oldest pizza establishment in the city. And about 22 years in, he decides, when the founder dies, I'm not going to have a chance to buy this place. And,
right.
I'm 40 years old. I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to give it a shot. And he finds a couple friends to invest in him and opens a suburban store instead of a downtown store where he had worked all his life. And it was at that time where we lived close enough to the restaurants, and I was old enough that I could work there, and my brother as well. And it became more of a family affair. And at that point, we started eating pizza every day because we were there every day. I remember at 15, 16 years old, we were bus boys. We were answering phones and taking carryout orders. We were working in the kitchen. We were washing dishes. We were doing a little of everything. And we'd also promise our friends that they could do that too and eat pizza. But the work was so hard that I'm not sure they felt like it was worth it. We lost a lot of friends that way.
Where was that first restaurant?
It was just north of the city in Lincoln Way. And 8 months after that, they opened a place in Elk Grove Village, and we're sort of on a roll. At that point, I think my dad was convinced he was going to be Ray Kroc and turn this into McDonald's.
And when I read about you, it was saying that your dad had, or was it you? No, your dad had learned from his dad about making pizza. Is that correct? Rudy was his dad?
Yes.
Was Lou's dad, and he had learned about making pizza, the deep dish style of pizza. And there's a story that I read, basically very American sounding, an Italian restaurant opens in a Jewish neighborhood on an Irish holiday, right? And
Right.
and
Like a
something happens
convergence.
on opening night. Can you tell us about what kind of hope happened that night when they were opening the restaurant that could have taken
Yeah,
as a sign
actually,
either way?
right. Actually, it was in the middle of the afternoon.
Oh,
A guy drove up over the cement parking stop, over the concrete garden wall, and threw a brick through the brick wall of the restaurant
oh,
into one of the booths.
oh my God.
And a woman who was sitting there sustained a broken arm. We had a hole in the restaurant, and it was opening day. What are you going to do? The show must go on. So we had bricklayers out there that afternoon into the evening, and we somehow survived.
Very American sounding story though of not only how he opened and what happened, but the idea of going on like this is what we're going to do, and it seems to me that's kind of the same mentality you have even going today. You have much more success, but it seems like you have that same roll your sleeves up and go to work kind of attitude about it all. Is that correct?
Well, the restaurant business is it's hard work. It requires people who have a solid work ethic. It's a people business for certain. And in order to be successful, you have to be firing on all cylinders, and you're only as good as the last meal you put on somebody's plate. So you got to show up every day ready to play. And we do that. And we've, been able to surround ourselves with a cast of incredible people who have empowered our group to be able to grow and meet the demand for deep dish pizza all throughout Chicago and the Midwest, and as you said, Arizona as well.
And it's funny because, I was like, why is this pizza so good? But, besides it's just really good. But when I was reading about it, one of the histories of the pizza itself was that you've been getting cheese from Wisconsin for the last 40 years now. I don't know if that's still going on, but I hope it is. But
Oh,
I
absolutely.
figured this must be what makes it so good to me, being a Wisconsin boy, that they're using this Wisconsin cheese, and those ingredients are really important to what you're making, right? I mean, it became part of the taste of the pizza.
Absolutely. What the cows are eating and what kind of weather we have in Wisconsin is critical to the cheese that's put out. That is the most important ingredient on the pizza. And we're really diligent to make sure we're talking to the cheese plant and people, the artisans who are making the cheese on a regular basis. And those guys are really artists. And they have to, in order for something to stay the same, in order for something to remain consistent, there has to be consistent change. They have to tweak it here and there to make sure there's enough butter fat, not too much moisture, that the cheese is just right. If they goof that up, then when your pizza gets delivered to your table and you take a slice out, the cheese just runs all over the pan.
Right.
And you don't want that. But
No.
you don't want it too stiff either.
Yeah.
You want it to be able to stretch. When a little kid takes it in his mouth for the first time and takes that bite and can't quite, sever the mozzarella from the rest of the slice, and you just see it. You see it pull into the air, and the eyes get bigger. You got to have that, and that's really, that really comes down to the cheesemakers. So we're dependent on those guys being great at what they do. They are artists.
As you guys grow, they have to grow too, right? They have to somehow be able to keep growing with you and making enough cheese to keep you going, right? Which
Yes,
can
they
be
do.
tough in any business to grow. It sounds simple, but it's not a simple process for any business to get bigger and bigger. It's actually
Right.
complicated.
Right. Well, we use over 5 million pounds of cheese a year, and so it's a they have to be on their game.
And those relationships, it's great when you can build a relationship that can last like that. I know that's hard to have. It's not like, I don't think you own the cheese company, but you have a relationship with other businesses. It takes cooperation and understanding to get through each year, and to go on and on together. So that's a great thing to have. I know one of the things you've talked about that you're really proud of is your workforce as well, which is another real difficult relationship. Speaking from BoDeans, we don't hire anywhere near the amount of people you do, but it's been real difficult to find people who will stick with you or have any vested interest in the company or any kind of loyalty. I've hired people who have said straight to me my face, "You could pay me $5,000 a week, and I'm still going to ask you for more money." There was just that sense of they wanted to get what they could from the company and just go on and do their own thing. So I'm interested to know from you, do you have a philosophy about finding people to work in your company a way you can get good people and keep them around, or how you build that sense of community in your business?
Yeah. Yes. I have a long answer and a short answer to the question. I think the short answer is we really look for people who, like I said a minute ago, have a solid work ethic. You have to be able to jam it up into fifth gear in our business because everybody wants to eat at once. And so, so there's that rush every day where you have to be able to accelerate. And then we look for people who are team players, because 1 + 1 = 3, and we're in tight quarters, and it requires us to work together and to try to make the others better, try to make each diner's experience spectacular each night, and that takes a village. And then thirdly, I'd say that we want and bring in people who are committed to growing themselves. And when I say that, I mean, people who aren't satisfied with who they are right now and have more to learn and realize that they're curious about life, and people who take responsibility for what they are becoming and how they lead in their life, and that aren't victims. It's hard to work with victims, and it's hard to work, just like it's hard to work with people who are sure they're always right. So we look for we look for people who will take responsibility.
Yeah, it's tough. I found people where I thought I was giving them a great opportunity, and they, 6 months in, they wanted to be paid as much as I'm being paid. It would just change overnight, and it's hard to find somebody who will stick with the company. And in your circumstance, you have to find not just people in the stores, but people who are on a corporate level who, it trickles down, like how many people this person has to oversee or that person. And it seems to me real complicated because I'm in a small business, so I get to see kind of everything, but I can't imagine running as big of a workforce as you do and maintaining a sense of community about it. That takes some real effort.
It does. It does take real effort. And I believe there's about 4,000 people working at Malnatis today. And, when we first started, my brother and I, there were, a couple hundred. And I think that we've been really fortunate. We've really been blessed to bring in people who are committed and work and act like they own the company, even when they don't. Yeah. And many of those we've been able to make partners over the years. I feel good about that. And I feel good about the fact that people have been able to spend 20 and 30 and 40. We have one woman who's been with us for over 50 years now. And I think that's what really makes a company feel like more of a community. And that's what we've sought to do. Early on, we were starting to grow, and we were on about our 5th store. And every time we'd open a new store, it was kind of a crapshoot. If it didn't go, it would likely bring down the rest of the company because we had invested so much. And
right.
And we'd come through that, and look, we still have leaders around who have more potential, and we can open another store. There's more demand in this neighborhood, and as we looked to that, we'd have to wind up spreading out a little bit more, and people weren't as in touch with one another, and that led to problems early on, and it led to gossip and infighting, and
right, which is terrible.
And I think the real secret sauce of the company came out of that issue, because we brought in a business coach, Rich Blue, who was a friend of ours in the day, and my wife Jeannie and I, knew him and trusted him to kind of teach our leadership skills around conflict resolution and around sharing themselves and around kind of being vulnerable with one another. And it's a people business, and we have to be alongside one another. We have to grow one another. We have to invest in one another. And so we got the leadership team together in a hotel room for about 4 hours one day, and said, "Hey, help us, work with us on this." And first it started out kind of everybody telling jokes, a little nicey, and all of a sudden Rich said, "Okay, let's give one another some feedback on about some of the things that are bothering you in your relationships." And people gradually started talking, and then started screaming and started crying, and so we wound up doing the whole thing again 4 weeks later, and then 4 weeks later, and we've never stopped, and that's been 30 years now, where leadership teams have met in circles and worked to clear through things, to share the stories they were making up about one another, to really give their share their emotional lives with one another. And I think we have 25 different circles like that exist in the leadership of Malnatis, and that that is one thing that really holds us together as a community. And it's more than the sauce, right? It's
right.
It's about making sure your people are growing, making sure they're developing and working together, and really caring about one another and investing in one another.
Be Bold bars are back, you guys. You all know how much I love these bars and their founder, Stacy. If you're new here, Be Bold bars were founded by Stacy Madison, the founder of Stacy's Pita Chips. Her new bars, Be Bold bars, are refrigerated energy bars made with nuts, nut butters, honey, maple. They're absolutely delicious. Plus, all 4 flavors are gluten and dairy free, which is really good. If you're new to Be Bold bars and you want to give them a try, I recommend trying the combo pack they offer at BeBoldBars.com. It comes with both almond butter and peanut butter flavors. Plus, if you use the BOLD code, which is hard to say, BOLD, at checkout, you will receive 20% off. That code BOLD for 20% off at BeBold.com. I know you're going to like them. I think I'm hearing you say that it's a lot about communication too. I know one of the other things we dealt with a lot was you hire some people who start saying stuff in the background, and there becomes a wall between you and some of the employees somehow. And I think what you're saying is you need to be able to break through that wall and knock it down one way or another with people, or there's going to be a real problem between workers and management, or there's always going to see a problem there between people, especially if you have people spreading rumors or whatever they do, naysayers in there, which there can always be. So you have to really talk and get through it, and I guess help people move on if they need to. One of the things I read about in your guys' story was opening the North Lawndale restaurant. I know there was a bit of a story about like you weren't sure about going into that neighborhood, and then it, I think what I read was that it turned out to be a real positive thing for the neighborhood.
Right, that's a great story. My brother was coaching New Trier, one of the local high school basketball team at the time, and he became friends with a fellow named Coach Gordon, Wayne Gordon, who was the pastor of a mostly black church down in North Lawndale. He had been a coach, a wrestling coach and a football coach at the local high school, Farragut, and so Rick's idea was to bring the suburban kids together with the urban kids, play basketball, and then afterwards eat pizza together and, and just get to know one another.
Right.
And, really a great idea, just a kind of a, solid grassroots idea to bring kids together. And it really created friendships over the years because they did this every year. And sometimes they played at New Trier and sometimes they play in Lawndale. But it formed a friendship between Coach and Rick and then me. And Coach said, hey, one of the things we really need in North Lawndale is a restaurant where people can come in and sit down, have a business meeting, maybe celebrate a birthday party with their family. There's nothing like this. So the neighborhood had been mostly burned out in the 60s after the Democratic National Convention. And,
right.
There was a lot of vandalism and looting and was having trouble kind of coming back. And,
right.
And this is, almost 20 years ago now. We decided to open a restaurant in that neighborhood, and they had a building for us that was ready to go, and we became partners with Lawndale Community Church, and with the hope of kind of bringing hope to that neighborhood and also bringing some jobs. And we said we'd donate all the profits we made back to the community to support kind of educational and recreational activities for kids. And it took us 10 years to break through and make a profit there.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be easy, but we hung in there, and and I think God was really blessing the rest of our stores and gave us the ability to keep that open. And it's doing well today, and we're able to do things in that neighborhood that we weren't able to do when we first opened, and the store's really starting to thrive.
It's a magical thing with food and our culture, but for me, especially pizza, that it can bring people together. It's one of those things. I talk to people on this podcast a lot about how, even though in this country we've seen a lot of divisiveness in the last 5 years or so, more than I've ever remember seeing in my time growing up, that when I play music and I sing songs, there's no divisiveness at all in the audience. Everyone's singing together. We're all united, and there's an incredible positive energy in the room. And I really think it's important to point that out to the audience in the moment when it's happening, because they're just like, oh yeah, we can be together. We can have a common ground. And I think food and gatherings of food kind of offer up that very same moment for people to get together and share good food and to communicate and all these things that are important positive energies for us today. Because if you watch the news or something, there's so much focus on the negativity in the world. It's hard to find positivity, but when BoDeans go out and play, that's kind of the best part of my job, is I get to do something really positive in a world that could really use it. And so I think for pizza and your pizza restaurants, it's very much the same thing. It's a chance for people to get together. And I think that story kind of embelized that happening of a community able to come together and giving them an opportunity to sit down and talk. And even when you're talking about suburban kids and inner city kids getting together to play sports, it's a chance to get to know each other and communicate and see that we're all human beings and find this common ground instead of concentrating on all the differences all the time. And so, I salute your restaurants for being able to do that as well. And I know you were talking about your wife. I know you and your wife have the Malnati Family Foundation, and I was reading about some of the important things that you focus on, which was peace building, mental wellness, education, workforce development through strategic investment with community partners, making Chicago community stronger. Again, it seems like you're working on Chicago as a whole, but everywhere, coming together, not pulling apart. You want to tell us what you're doing with your foundation and tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. My mom and dad always taught us that as we were blessed, we needed to make sure we were out there blessing others, and that when we're given a lot's expected in return. And they were, two of the most generous people I knew. And so Jeannie and I, as we've been given so much and been able to grow this business, we've just felt like, we need to give back and give back, especially in the areas of our city here that really need support. And violence has really torn Chicago up, especially on the south and west sides, and it's taking a toll downtown now, and Chicago will recover, but we are investing in trying to educate and trying to build in some of the local organizations and build into the people who are running those local organizations and the volunteers and the workforce there, and to support them in their growth and equip them to be able to lead kids who feel like they don't have an opportunity to get off the streets and wind up with guns and wind up doing things that lead to early incarceration or and broken families. So we're real believers in investing there. Among other things, we invest in cancer research. And
right. I was going to get to that with you and your dad and the history between that. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly when your dad died and how young you were, but
I was 22.
Yeah,
my brother was 18.
Pretty young, and you guys kind of went in there and started running the business after your dad died, and really responsible for going from a couple stores to, I read 52. It's probably more now, but that's a lot. And what was that? How much work was that? And how much did your dad's death affect your, wanting to make a success out of the businesses?
Yeah. It's hard having your dad die, especially when you're young. I always, I can't ever forget that day or that time. He suffered from cancer for a while, but he gave us a great product and a great name. And he was quite the promoter. And so after he died, we were down to 2 stores, and we owed everybody money. All the people who sold us cheese and sausage and tomatoes, we owed everybody money, and maybe over $500,000 at that point, and that was the late 70s. And Rick and I just, felt like we needed to establish the brand, and we started, and we also needed money, and so we started going on the road, sort of, and doing festivals, and we do them every festival we could find in the Chicagoland area. We drove up to Minneapolis and did festivals. We were sort of kind of a roaming band of gypsies.
Yeah, I know that very well.
There you go. But we felt like if we could get people to taste our product, probably just like if you could get people to hear your music.
Yeah, which is what you do when you're a young band, right? You go from town to town, you knock on doors, and you say, "Hey, listen to this."
That's right. Well, you guys have done an unbelievable job with that, and acclaim worldwide, and and we seek to do the same thing, and so as we got our footing, we were able to open new stores and kind of we're lucky at the beginning and got things going. We had the idea to sell pizzas, frozen pizzas, across the country and ship pizzas. And we're the largest shipper of frozen pizzas across the country now. Rick's idea, really a good one, and we stuck with it, and now I've incorporated other brands under the name Tastes of Chicago, and people from all over Chicago, displaced Chicagoans and right. Others alike can order online, and they order today. We'll sometimes get it there tomorrow or the next day. And
that's right. You sent me a bunch of pizzas, and I that was perfect. They arrive. They're still frozen. They're delicious. Everything was really wonderful about it, and they last me a while.
I'm glad.
It was really good. Go ahead, though. I didn't mean to interrupt. But Taste of Chicago, or Taste of Chicago, has become a big part of Chicago too, about selling that flavor, that food of Chicago to the whole country, the whole world.
Right. We've incorporated and partnered with a lot of different local brands here. Let Us Entertain You and Portillo's Beef and
Right.
Eli's Cheesecake and Garrett's Popcorn and Gibson Steaks and
Right.
on and on. And it's really become an important part of our business and an important part of people's lives around the country.
Yeah, and after the success, with the restaurants and growing, obviously at one point you were able to start Lou Malnati Cancer Research Foundation at Northwestern Medicine. Again, because of your dad's influence or what you went through with him, the idea of wanting to help give back, help solve this, help with cancer research or whatever you could do. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. My mom has really been the one behind our philanthropic efforts to give money to Northwestern Hospital and to support cancer research and try to end many cancers in our lifetime. Right now, we have a special emphasis on brain cancer because I think it's received the least amount of funding. And we have an incredible team at what is now the Malnati Brain Tumor Institute at Northwestern Medicine. Roger Stoop and Jim Chandler and Matt Lesniak have recruited people from all over the world and have one of the best teams in the world now to deal with brain cancer. And our young CEO, Mark Agnew, a few years ago, wound up, at 41 years old, having brain cancer surgery. And so it's something that's really near and dear to our hearts. Cancer.
To everybody,
cancer
really.
dad
I mean, I had several people in my family die of cancer as well. It's just something that everybody relates to, and everybody knows the fact that you were able to have success and then give back to those areas. It's cancer has plagued our civilization for so long. I'm sometimes surprised in how much work and money it takes to try to solve this, that we're still working hard every day. These brilliant people are trying to still, and we've come a long way, but it's still it's a big monster out there that we're trying to get past, and so that's a great thing. You've been on Throwdown with Bobby Flay. Now you've been on some shows here with Pizza, right? And some challenges with Jon Stewart, which I watched a clip of on YouTube, which was pretty intense. What's that been like? Do you do that very often?
Well, it's not that often that a late night host calls and says, "Do you want to come on the show?" But I do remember that distinctly, because Jon Stewart had been bashing Chicago pizza and and saying that it was like I don't know, anything bad he could think of, he was saying. And at that point, I was in New York, and Jeannie and I left a pizza on his doorstep, and our son filmed it, and we sent it to him with a little message, and the next day he called and said, "Hey, we want you to come on the show. We want to settle this thing once and for all," because it had been going on for a little while. And, I remember, talking to him, before the show, and, "What are you going to say, John?" And he was a great guy. He was easy to work with, and he didn't rough me up too badly on the show. But once he tasted the pizza, that we flew dough and cheese out there and borrowed a local guy's pizza place and made one up fresh right there on the spot. And once he tasted it, I think he said, this is pretty good. So I was wrong.
Which really
he started bashing California pizza.
Yeah, that's right. It gets to, people sometimes ask me, what's your favorite song? And I'm completely unable to pick my favorite song. It's like asking who's your favorite child or something. with pizza, there's so many different styles of pizza. I couldn't tell you like this is absolutely one. I can tell you Lou Malnati's is a really great pizza. But when I was like very young in Brookfield, Wisconsin, my family would take me to a little restaurant called Ciro's Pizza, which was like paper thin crust type pizza. And I remember just loving that pizza so much when I was a kid, and how much I enjoyed going to it. But pizza's always been such a big part of my life. I think because I wasn't a big meat eater in my life at all. So cheese pizza was always a place I could go and find salvation and eat it. But there's lots of pizza that's really good. And I think hopefully what Jon Stewart should have been saying was something like that. You know, you can enjoy a good slice of New York pizza, but to bash another pizza is not cool. I will say one thing though. I'm down here in Austin, Texas, and in 20 years of being here, I have never, ever found a decent slice of pizza. And people get real mad at me about it down here because there's pizza places down here. But any plans for a Lou Malnati's down here in Austin? Because we could use you.
Yeah, I've been to Austin. It is a great town.
It is. It is really
a lot of regard for that town. It's not in our plans yet. We're looking to kind of just grow out of the Midwest.
Yeah.
Our pizza seems to have a real Midwest sensibility, and we've found a lot of success there.
That's for sure.
But we're growing pretty quickly, and it could happen soon.
Yeah. I know people were worried, like you've had some investment companies buying into your company. And I know as a business, when you want to expand, you get investments from other companies to grow. And some people were concerned of that very thing. Are you going to stay the Midwest thing we love so much, like you've always been? And what's your response to them?
Well, nothing's really changed here at Malnati's, but
right.
As we chose to grow out of state because we had kind of inundated the Chicago area, it's an expensive proposition, and it's a risky proposition too.
Yeah.
How are you going to be accepted in another town?
Right.
It's easy here in Chicago because we have a name that's been established over 50 years. So we decided to bring in some outside capital, which, made sense to me. And, we have great people that are managing the process, and the partners really haven't, they want to support us, but they haven't interfered. And, we still do things the way we've done things every day since we started. We're about trying to create the best product we can create. We're about choosing the best tomatoes we can use on our pizza, the sweetest, the plumpest, the reddest.
Yeah.
And like I said before, you're only as good as the last meal you've put on someone's plate. And we're out there to serve. We have a new CEO now. I graduated to be chairman of Malnatis, and we have a new CEO named Mike Archer, who's spent a lot of years. He started at Morton's in Chicago, and he spent a lot of years running, some of the larger steakhouse groups and bigger restaurant groups in the city, and now has come back to Chicago where his roots are, and is helping us. And he's been a fantastic partner for me, and just to run Malnati's at this particular moment in time. We still have Jim and Dennis D'Angelo, who've been with me for 35 years and, in operations. And that's the key, keeping people that, especially in the restaurants, in the operations, in the daily cranking of pizzas and just to be able to do it again and again and try to do it better every day.
Yeah. And still having that really reliable, great product that everybody loves. I don't want to take up your whole time here, but I did want to end with the idea I had since I'm touring around the country and eating pizza every day. It's like I literally could identify the towns for you that might be a good spot for Malnati's or Lou Malnati's to expand to, because I'm out there doing the work. I'm out there on the road. So you let me know.
So we need to hire you as a consultant.
Yeah, that's right. I could do research for you, like on the ground, door to door research. BoDeans, everywhere they go. pizza on the show rider. We'll see what the town's got, and the town can bring us the best pizza they got, and I can be like, yeah, and take it from there. What do you think?
I love it. We'll just keep sending you boxes of pizzas for the towns that don't have don't have food.
Yeah, I could introduce it to the town. How about that?
There you go.
Anyways, I really want to thank you for coming out and talking to us about it, because everyone who knows me for all these years knows I love pizza, and it's a real important subject to me and my kids, my family. We all very much love pizza, and I appreciate the pizzas you've sent us. And for years, we've been going to Lou Malnati's and having the pizza. We look forward to it all the time. And we love pizza in general. To everyone out there making great pizza, we support you. But it's very nice talking to you today and letting people hear a little bit of the story of Lou Malnati's Pizza, Chicago, Illinois, Midwest, now expanding slowly. Thank you so much, Mark.
Great to be with you, Kurt. And,
take care.
And keep up the great music.
We will.
And you didn't ask me, but my favorite, Closer to Free.
Yeah, that's a good one. That pretty much is emblematic of BoDeans sound, high energy rock and roll. That's what we do. I do have a new record coming out in June, so some new music on the way as well.
Fantastic. Can't wait to hear it.
All right, you take care. Okay, well, there you go. Everything you want to know about starting a pizza chain. Marc Malnati, that was a great interview. It's really insightful to hear about, running a business, growing a business, and of course, pizza. I'm hungry. I'm going to go home and have some. So, hey, subscribe to the podcast if you can. Rate us, review us, wherever you get your podcasts. I certainly appreciate you joining us every time. I'll try to keep the subjects as interesting as possible, because we're staring at the world.
Thanks for listening to Staring at the World with BoDeans, Kurt Newman, a podcast about creative innovation. Please be sure to download, subscribe, rate, and review, and keep listening wherever you get your podcasts.